What were we going to talk about?
All or none.
All or none, yeah. Okay, I'm going to let you run with this one to start.
Yeah.
I know I will still have something to add because I can't stop myself.
Yes.
This is the thing that gets me is people's attitude about this all or none, okay? Which includes their own opinions of themselves and how well they call, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, so I think, as I've said this a million times, the only way to approach investing at all is to start with humility. You have to come into this knowing you're going to be wrong a lot, knowing you can't know the future, that it's going to change in ways that you can't define today, and that human beings, even if you knew all of what was going to happen, you would never think the market would react that way. You can't know, because it's full of human beings in this world. So you have to come in that way. And yet when we think about things, not just in all or none in investing, we also think about it all or none in we're going to put it all in when the Dow gets to 29,000. Why? How about if when it's down 10%, you put some in? And then if it goes down 15, you put some more in. Even if you ultimately thought it would get to some point. What if you're wrong and it gets to 30,000 after a huge price break of 18% and rips higher and you're left holding the bag? Oh yeah, that's what happens every flipping time when you think all or none.
Yep. And people do this in everything, right? It's like, I don't want to invest in the market because I've only done real estate.
Right.
I don't want to invest in the market because I believe Bitcoin's the only way to go. And they do all or nothing instead of saying, you know what, I think real estate does make sense in some piece of my portfolio, but not 100%.
Yeah.
Right? So people are very funny on their minds and how they think things through and what makes sense. So we were talking, and we don't want to get too much on Bitcoin either, but it's interesting how people they liked it because no one regulated anything, right?
Right.
And now they don't like it and they want regulation because it didn't work. So again, that goes back to how we think. Psychology told us we want this and we're thinking this way, but then we can't do it. So all or none, like with annuities, right? They put 100% in their money in an illiquid investment that they can't get out of. And then they're shocked because, well, they can't get out of it without a huge penalty, which is the commission the person that sold it to you was paid. So that's something too that they say, well, you don't pay to buy them, but you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that's another thing too, right? I don't want to
I know, but
beat it to death,
off,
but this is just, it's one of those absurdities that is out there. We're talking about things that tie up money for 10 years, and they're allowed to say things like, you need to avoid the fees over here. Like a 10% commission is not a fee? You got to be kidding me. Right? Yep. These are terrible things, and that's why we try to avoid those. We want full disclosure. Mm-hmm. We require it of all of our vendors. All our clients require it of us, and so does the law. Yep. You have to act in a full fiduciary capacity when you're people like us, right?
Yep.
So that anyway, that's an aside. The all or none also is people's attitude about when we're going to move from one thing to. I'm really nervous right now. You know what people mean? I want to move all the cash. Mm-hmm. They don't think incrementally. Like, I'm really nervous now. I don't like what's going on. There's just something wrong. Okay, why don't you raise the next couple of years' income, set it aside in something that will get you 5% and won't move with the market.
But shouldn't you already had that set aside anyways, no matter what?
Totally fair point.
When you sit there and you think, well, now I want to set money aside because I'm nervous, well, you should have that money set aside.
Yep.
Right? That shouldn't be something that you react when you're uncertain. If anything, you should be trimming, like going into this year with high distributions last year because the market had done so well, right? We had a lot of cash.
Correct.
That's kind of how the market works, right? You get a big distribution right before you tend to have a little bit of a correction. Not that you saw it coming at all.
No.
But that just fills up the bank a little bit so you don't have to worry so much.
When we're providing income, that's correct. And for other circumstances, you're 100% correct. It needs to be prepared for if you're needing income. The way we always talk about that is we don't worry about where the income's coming over the next year or two. We already know where that's coming from. We're thinking out, how are we getting income in the 3 to 5 year bucket, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can and will have sustained bear markets where asset prices drop. You can't sell down. That's how you run out of money. Mm-hmm. If you can't sell down, how do we sustain through that? Because we have the income to sustain through. So you're quite right. You prepare for it in advance. Mm-hmm. And all or none doesn't allow you to do that. And mentally, you just don't do that.
No. And you shouldn't get overly exuberant either, right? Because we get that fear of missing out was the big word for a long time.
Yeah.
FOMO, everybody was fearful they're missing
New word,
out.
none of us knew before.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And now that's gone. No one's
Yeah.
talking about fear of
No.
missing out anymore. Now
No.
they're saying, oh my goodness, we need to time it this way. So we get overly exuberant and we get overly concerned, which isn't risk tolerance again. So we keep going back to that, right?
Yeah.
What we need to do is look at what we own. Why do we own it? Kind of like Amazon. No one would know in a million years that Amazon was up 27% in July.
Right.
Right? Everybody's
right.
sitting around going, oh, no one ever wants to buy this again because,
Yeah.
you know, they're having this problem or that problem. And if you waited, you missed 27%.
That's right. Because you didn't want to own it 35% down because you thought it might go down 40. That's an all or none attitude.
It is. Yep.
It is. And I know because I have this conversation all the time. You know who I'm thinking of.
I do.
You just have to move the money, put it into the Amazons of the world down 35%. It's a good idea. I think that the Dow is going to 29,000. Ugh.
I know.
Ugh.
I know.
Ugh. And the Dow isn't Amazon. The Dow is nothing. It's another measurement of 30 stocks, price weighted, very irrelevant to how the overall market's doing.
And price weighting is an interesting thing, right? Because no one even understands how the markets are priced. So if you have a company that's worth 100,000 a share or 10,000 a share, think about that for a minute, how different that would be. That 100,000 owns the whole majority of the indice.
Yep.
Or even worse, like $10 a share. They're both in there, right? And how majority is owned by just that one company. It means nothing.
It's kind of like we always say, too, with the index, and then this will kind of set us up for our final segment because I want to talk about, I want to go back to and talk about proper measurement of how we're doing, right? I want, that's been big lately, and it's not, because sometimes people are just in these times of they're nervous. They just want to know, how am I doing?
Right.
How do you feel like you're doing? That's not really what they're talking about. You know, they're just, we want to learn how to measure those things properly in our minds, and there isn't a perfect measurement. Okay, so back to it. S&P 500 is really the S&P 50. It really is. We forget that Apple and Google and Netflix and Amazon are just so, I can't say Alphabet. I still can't call it Alphabet. But anyway, all of those companies are so big that they dominate the index. So the top 50, 70 to be exact, is 75% of the entire movement of the index. Everything under 100 companies is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you're in the S&P 500 or if you're number 423 as far as the measurement of the index. It's a great achievement as a company. Don't get me wrong. But that is nothing in the index. And that's one of the reasons they have all these other indexes. I don't want to get in the weeds here, but they have equal weighting and all those things, which is a better balance of the market. But that's not what you hear every day reported on the news at all. So it's also misleading. What the market did is misleading. The Dow was down, just as an example, today, like 300 points. Well, small cap stocks, as measured by the Russell 2000, were up today. Which is it, folks? Up or down? Depends what you own. Doesn't it? We'll be right back.